Hi YouTube, Edward Tyndall here, and Rupert Brown. Another epic grandpa series for y'all. If you've seen him surviving the bull, wait till you hear about this stuff that he survived. And you're on, Pop.
Well, we worked in construction, working 5 days a week, and on Saturdays I'd want to go fishing and over in Lake Okeechobee, and I had me an airboat built, and I'd take my grandson, he wasn't about 6 years old, with me over there fishing, and we'd catch them bluegills and shell crackers and find the beds to take that airboat and ride around there till we found the beds of them and just anchor out by it and throw your hook over in that bed, and you catch them bluegills just as fast as you could put a line over in there. And I tell him, I said, son, this don't catch over 25 now, because I don't want to clean over 25, because that was 2 or 3 messes for me and my wife and him. And so he'd get to catching them and he wouldn't want to stop. He'd holler and cry because I'd make him put his line up. And we started back, he got mad at me because we was catching them, and I told him, I said, we got all we wanted. We had about 40, and I didn't want to have to clean that many. And so he kind of got mad at me, and we started back to the shore so we could load the airboat on a trailer and go on back home, because we live about 60 miles from, we lived in Alva, and that was Okeechobee, and it's about 65 miles over where we went fishing at. And on the way back across that lake, we was about a mile and a half from shore, and the water about 12 foot deep. And he reached up there and turned, and I was running about 45 miles an hour with that airboat. He reached up there and turned the switch off, and when he did that, I didn't know exactly what happened to it to start with, and that boat stopped, and the water like swamped us coming in over the back end, and finally it popped back up, and we got out of that disastrous, because if it had sunk out there, we didn't have no life jacket or anything to keep us up, and too far to swim with. Me and him would have just bit the dust out there. Well, anyhow, we got on back and got them clean, and then my wife, she cooked us a plate of them there brim fresh, and they were really good. We like to hunt too, and I like the deer hunt, and we had a pasture up there in the Webb area, and we'd go up there hunting, and I had one of the just about as good a dog as you could ever want for slow trailing. And one Sunday, we me and my wife and my two boys, and Hewlin Futch and his wife, and he had a couple little girls, we all went up there we had a camp up there in the Jordan pasture next to the game reserve in the Webb area, and we was just going up there and do some fishing, catch some fish, and come back there to the camp and clean them and eat them. Well, we went back about 4 miles back there in the woods, and the power line, there was a high line that went from Fort Myers to Sarasota, and there was a big hole back there in one of the ponds where they dug it years ago for water hose for the cows. And we pulled up there on the banks of it and started fishing. We caught a half a 5-gallon bucket full of fish in just a little while, and I had the old Red with me, and that was my deer dog. And we started back to the camp, and about a mile from the camp, two deer. Here come two deer running from the right out there, and I told Hewlin, I said, stop, Hewlin. And I only had 3 shells with me in that pump shotgun. I jumped out and shot one of them and killed him. And the other one, he turned and run the other way, and I shot at him, but I missed him, or either didn't hit him very good. And my dog got loose and started running him. And he run him back towards Knoll Grade, and Hewlin, I told Hewlin, we stood there listening at him, and I really didn't see the second deer. Hewlin said there were 2 deer, and I said that dog must be backtracking that deer, and he kept running. I said, no, he won't backtrack one, and he made a big circle down in there by Knoll Grade and started back up, coming back up to the pasture we was in. And I said, I had 1 shell left, and I run down the road. I said, you tend to this deer, Hewlin, I'm going to run down there and see if I can cut that dog off. And I run down there. I must have run a half a mile down that old woods road, and there was one pine tree out there, and it was a slough. And here that deer come, and I shot him when he got about 75 yards from me, and he went down, and I started up there to him, and I got about 25 feet of him, and he jumped up and started running towards me, and I thought in my mind, I said, I'm going to take my shotgun and hit him with a barrel upside the head and maybe knock him down. And I said, no, I'll bend the barrel of my gun. And I just threw my gun down. By that time, he hit me right in the chest with his head, and I caught his horns. And he just jumped in the air and took me backwards all the way to the ground. And he went over my head, and me holding his horns, and me and him wrestled in them palmettos there for, I don't know, long enough that I got the hide tore off of both of my ears, and my arms and hands was eat up with them palmettos because they're sharp there, and I got give out, and Hewlin, he hadn't come back with a truck yet, and I said, shoot, there ain't but one pine tree, and if I can make it that pine tree, I'm going to jump up and run and get behind it. So I jumped up and run and got behind that pine tree, and the deer just laid there. And finally Hewlin got up there, and I said, Hewlin was a big old boy and strong as an ox. And I told him, I said, Hugh, if you want that deer, you better go out there and get him, because he done whipped me. I ain't messing with him. And Hewlin went out there, and that deer jumped up and run into him, and he was strong enough. He grabbed him and throwed him down, and got his knee on his neck, and I went up there and cut the deer's throat, and he bled out, and we got him and took off, and we had 2 deer and a bucket of fish. Now you talk about hunters and fishermen, we must have been them. So we went back to the camp there, had a little old metal camp built out of tin and all, and we was there, started to clean the deer, and my mother and daddy happened to be out riding around, and they come in there where we was at, so I was glad they come in there. So we cleaned the deer and give them what of it they wanted, and then me and Hewlin had plenty of deer left over, and we took after we got them clean and all, we went back to my house and cleaned them fish, and we had another big fish fry. And that was one experience I had with deer hunting. And another one, when I moved to Alabama, they planted a lot of them green patches up there, and we had a couple hundred acres of ground, and I planted about 6 green patches around, and I got hogs was coming in there and eating the corn where we had corn feeders for the deer. So I got a trap, a hog trap from Tommy Wilson that lives down the road. He had some traps, and I got that trap and I put it up there at one of them feeders and throwed a little corn in there. And I went down there one day and there was a deer in that trap. Now, I didn't think a deer would go in a trap, but there was a 6-point buck in there, and he had the horns sharp as needles. And he had the pen turned over sideways, and he was standing up in there, just standing up in there, and I went up there. I said, well, I'm going to let him out instead of killing him. I had a .22 rifle with me, and I wished I'd have shot him now, but I didn't. And I got down on my knees there, and I couldn't open the pen. I had to get down there because it was in a little pine thicket there where the trap was. And I got down on my knees and started opening that door of that trap, and I didn't have it over 3 or 4 inches open, and I was right in front of it, and that deer dove out. He seen that crack, and he dove out that thing and hit me right in the chest, and put a horn through my arm and one in my chest, and right there was a scar where he put it. Horn went through my arm right there. Then he put one up in my shoulder, and knocked me, I don't know, he must have knocked me backwards at least 10 feet. And I was laying there, and I said, Lord, I don't know where that deer is at. And finally I looked over there to the side. I seen some movement because I'm blind in one eye and I can't see out of my right eye. But on the left-hand side, I seen something moving. I looked over there, and there was that deer. And he just standing there looking at me. And I said, I didn't want to move because I was scared he might catch me because I was laying down on the ground. And finally he just decided he'd walk on off, and he just walked off, and I never seen him since then or after then, you know. And that was 2 deer experiences I had with bucks catching me, and I know they'll catch you.
How old were you, Papa, at that time?
I was about 65 years old.
And the deer was how old?
And that deer was he was a 6-point buck. And you know how a little 6-point buck, how sharp their horns are. And he really worked me over there, skinned me up. Beside putting them horns in me where he knocked me backwards into them little sapling trees, I was skinned up all over. But, you know, they tell me, my daddy said, if you're going to be dumb, you got to be tough. So I guess I was tough. But that was some hunting experiences I had. You want to turn it off?
Yep.
And I might have something else to say.
That's about it. So my grandpa at, how old are you, 65?
Yeah.
65 years old, survived a young buck. He ain't no man to mess with, I'll tell you that. Bad to the bone. Peace, love, happiness, and all that good shit. Like, subscribe, and tell your friends.